What the hell? Oh my god, Dave changed his profile picture? Oh my god, Dave put me in his profile picture. Well, okay then. Hello everyone. I'm so sorry if you don't know who Dave is. I am finally continuing this series that I started a while ago. I think it might have been 2022. It could have even been 2021, late 2021, early 2022. I'm pretty sure is when I did it. In fact, I'm positive that it was from late 2021 to early 2022. I did 14 weeks, 14 episodes of this show, Fallen World, and it was a podcast, video, podcast series, whatever you want to call it. And what I did was I would cover different topics, share my opinions on them, and do it in a way like I was talking to an audience who could potentially be anybody from different backgrounds, different beliefs. I was not assuming that anyone was already on my side or understanding what I was saying. So, that was the idea behind it. And I just started another series. I abandoned it because I couldn't keep up with it and everything. Yeah, I like it, Dave. It's cute. So just trying to make sure that the camera's not off center because it would annoy me. And I'm gonna be thinking about it the whole time otherwise. I was messing around with it a little bit before I even went live, but now that I'm actually live, I can't continue fussing around with it, so I have to shove it to the side. They messed with your YouTube layout. Who is they? What, did you download some update? What kind of phone do you have, Dave? Or what do you want, like a laptop or something? Because my YouTube didn't change. I've been using it on my phone. Okay, I think everything is centered. I know you probably don't even notice the difference. Oh, you made a new account. Oh, okay. Cool. All right, I'm centered. Let's get started. So, Fallen World, I was talking about different topics as if the people watching didn't already know who I was and know what I thought. And this other series that I started on my other channel, link is in the description if you want to check that channel out. It's called Philosophical Psychology. I don't know where Aaron is. I didn't want to go live with him. It didn't make sense. This is a series. There's no reason. The other live streams that I've been doing are not part of a series. So I want to put this in a playlist. I want people to be able to watch, if they want to think of it like a project to watch episodes of a podcast or something. I liked to do that. There are people who I've watched episodes of their shit, and I find it very interesting. So, I'm not saying that I'm the most interesting person in the world, but I would hope that what I'm saying is at least worth something. So, Just Between Us is the name of the series on my other channel, Philosophical Psychology. On that channel, in that series, I do it every other Sunday at the same time. On this channel, I rotate between channels bi-weekly. So I do live streams every week, just back and forth between the two channels. And on that channel, Just Between Us, as the name implies, it's more just like if you kind of already agree with me, you think that we think the same way. It's just a place to feel like you're not crazy, where we can just talk about topics and feel like it just makes sense. So on that channel, I'm not holding back. I'm not trying to present it in a certain way. It is not made like an argument. On this channel, in Fallen World, I am trying to make it like an argument, and I'm hoping to include guests on both channels. I was trying to get a guest tonight, but it didn't work out. I'm on a Discord server with like 80,000 people who are having debates about politics. So I can find someone if I really, give a little bit more notice. I can find someone who wants to join me. With only 15 minutes notice, I almost found someone tonight, so I think my odds are good. I think vertical live streams, which is what it would be if I had a guest, those for some reason get more views. I don't know why. But I prefer horizontal just because it looks better, although it does, I think, decrease the view count because it doesn't show up when people are scrolling. At least that's what Aaron thinks, because all my live streams with him, vertical, have like 300 views. So that's a pretty big increase. Definitely a big difference. So this series, Zach just left. He just came over to visit, and we hung out and watched that new TV series called Baby Reindeer on Netflix. Very good show, very interesting. And that is the kind of thing that I might discuss on Just Between Us. Fallen World. So I've wasted 5 minutes already. I'm not going to count this. It's just live crap, you know, it's just getting the ball rolling. So my previous 14 episodes of this show were not live, and they are much more focused. However, they didn't have the time restraint that I'm going to currently be applying. My goal is 20 to 30 minutes. So we're not going to count these first 5 minutes. Well, 6 minutes now, but we're just going to get right into it and talk about the topic. Today is conspiracy theories, and I'm really excited because I'm actually not going to be talking about specific conspiracy theories, despite what the name might imply. My goal tonight is to talk about conspiracy theories as a concept and how it relates to what's actually going on. So this is for an audience of people who are here to learn something, you know, hear arguments and hear things that maybe they wouldn't have thought of. So it's like the difference between the shows, Just Between Us and Fallen World. One is educational and one is just to let off steam. And they both, I think, serve a purpose, because if I'm focused too much on this, especially if I have a guest and we're having a debate on something, that is definitely going to make me a little nuts, because some of the people that I've heard from believe insane things, and this is why I picked conspiracy theories. I've heard some people say some of the most wild, obscure things that you could ever imagine, and they believe it so confidently that when you talk to them, you almost find yourself getting sucked into their vortex. You almost find yourself thinking, could this be true? And let me give you some examples of some of the more popular but also obscure conspiracy theories that exist. These are some of the wildest ones. All celebrities are secretly transgender. There are blood sacrifices and devil worship going on behind the scenes in all the rich elite people of the world. They all know each other. They have secret meetings, and they're all Satan worshipers and have cannibalistic blood sacrifices, shit like that. That just goes on, right? Let's see, what else? We have the Earth is flat. That's my favorite one, because for some reason that's really popular. People are obsessed with that one. Oh my God, you would not believe. People are obsessed with that one. If I scroll through all the Discord voice channels where people are like talking and having debates about stuff like that, there's different ones. And the one that always seems to be the most crowded is 24/7 flat Earth. And I'm like, what? Why? Who cares? First of all, I mean, what difference is it going to make in my life if you prove the shape of the Earth? But let's indulge this, okay? I said I wasn't going to talk about specific conspiracy theories. I'm not. But let's, just for the sake of the topic that I actually want to cover, which is conspiracy theories as a concept, let's indulge the idea that these theories are true. Not just flat Earth, everything. All the crazy shit that I've mentioned, and anything else you can think of that you've heard of. Because I'm sure there are a lot of things, I mean, there's, like, very specific weird things. What you have to ask yourself is, what actually can be done about this? What can we do to put this information into use? And oftentimes these people don't seem to know. All they really do is, I believe the term is fear-mongering, if I'm using that correctly. I am the type of person who's very hesitant about using words that I'm not intimately familiar with. If I don't know the definition for sure, if I've never actually looked up the word, or even if I have but it's been a while and I forgot, like, I tend to not use it, and if I do use it, I always do it hesitantly. So just, for those of you who are new, just be aware that that's something I do. I'm very careful about my speech. So because I believe words matter, and I don't want to appear stupid, and I also don't want to pretend to be smarter than I am. So if I don't know something, I'll let you know I don't know it. And that's okay. There's no shame in not knowing something. You can't help it if you don't know something. If no one ever told you, if you never went looking for the information because you didn't have a reason to, that's not your fault. It's like, no one can know everything. So don't ever feel bad about not knowing something. That's only going to cause more problems, because then you're, not facing that you don't know it. It becomes a whole separate issue. You have to be honest with yourself and not judge yourself. All that does is hold you back. So this is what I'm talking about here. People don't think critically like that. These people who indulge in conspiracy theories, what they do is they get everyone afraid, and they say, these horrible things are going on behind the scenes. Everyone is lying to you. There's all these conspiracies. Everyone knows each other. Everyone's, conspiring against you. And it's, you better wake up, otherwise you're an idiot. And that's what they do. They call you an idiot. I was in the, it was very ironic to be called an idiot by a flat earther. But this is what they say. They say you don't understand science. They say you don't understand logic. You can't think. You don't know how to take evidence and interpret it like a logical person. They say that you just are naively believing everything you're told without question, and you're an idiot. They call you a globetard, and I'm being dead serious. So, this is like, I don't know how to explain this to someone who isn't a flat earther. If you are a flat earther, you know what I'm talking about. But if you aren't, I really can't explain this any better. I mean, this is just, it's ludicrous. But that's why I'm fascinated by it. I mean, it's hard for me to wrap my head around. So let's talk about, like, what that actually gets you. Not flat earth, but believing that everyone's lying to you and everything is a conspiracy against you. You become very paranoid. You believe that nothing is safe. And a lot of these people, ironically, are religious. But that's a whole other topic. Religion is poison, if I'm being honest. And I could make that case. This would be a lot easier if I had someone here to debate me, because when I make statements like that and someone disagrees, I want to hear what their disagreement is. I don't want to feel like I'm trying to educate people and not have anyone there to guide me, to let me know what people actually might need to hear. I can do it by myself. I've been doing it without guests for a very long time, but I feel like for the sake of, giving people new perspectives, it helps to have someone with the current perspective there to help bridge the gap, And I think I'm good at having debates. I haven't really gotten a ton of opportunities to prove that, but I think I'm good at it because I'm good at focusing on reaching a common goal. I'm focused on getting to the point and not just arguing over stupid semantics, which I think a lot of people do when they have debates. It's like they think they have to be on the opposing side, and they forget you're talking to another human being who you share a planet with, and your goal should be to be on the same page as them. You should be trying to get them to be on the same page as you, not as in trying to change their mind and get them on your side, but trying to get to the same place regardless of what that means, regardless of who is learning from whom, regardless of what's changing, or if we're realizing that we're not that different in the first place. You may think, oh, well, these beliefs themselves are incompatible, but maybe it's only because of all the specific things that you're focused on. If you take away all the garbage, you realize at its core, a lot of the opposing beliefs are actually very similar, fundamentally. Like, a lot of people have the same values, which is why it's possible for us to talk to each other, And that, I think, is the key to understanding a debate, is to understand that. So, let's think about this logically here. What good does it do for anyone to just be aimlessly terrified of the government, of anybody in positions of power, and saying that they're evil, they're doing these dark, horrible things, all your favorite celebrities, everyone that you might admire or respect? And then that begs the question, what can you trust? If even someone that you thought you knew intimately, like someone who is really candid, a celebrity who, for instance, shares every intimate detail of their life, and you get to know them really well, you get to know their beliefs, and then you find out that they're secretly in some creepy cult where they're doing blood sacrifices and whatnot, how do you process that information? You probably start questioning a lot of things. You probably think, geez, can I trust anyone? Can I trust my best friend? Can I trust myself? Can I trust anything? What if this is all, just some sort of, like, illusion? What if this is just VR somehow? I don't know. Like, you could go down the rabbit hole to a point of no return, where you're like, where even am I? Can I trust anything? So you have to be practical about this kind of stuff. And I'm not saying trust anything blindly. It is smart to be skeptical of everything, critical of everything, but you want to remain in the confines of logic. You don't want to get swept out at sea with fear and paranoia, which is ultimately what a lot of these conspiracy theories revolve around, is paranoia. That's why they're riddled with toxic energy. The people that believe in this stuff, they create little subcultures. They create these cultures of each other where they're just, it's like an echo chamber, and they're not actually learning anything. They're just basically feeding each other's beliefs and telling everyone else that they're stupid and they better get on the truth train. But where's the truth train going? Absolutely nowhere. These people are never talking about solutions. How are we going to change this system? How are we going to stop this from happening? How are we going to, remove these corrupt people from positions of power and prove that the earth is actually flat? And then what do you do with that information? I gotta be honest, if somebody proved that the earth was flat, it wouldn't change my life at all. Would make my life is not impacted by the shape of the planet in any way. It would make no difference to me. I can't imagine making that a whole debate topic, but people do it because for some reason it matters to them. And that's exactly what I'm talking about here. It's this fear that they don't really think it through all the way. Fear is panic. It's not logic. It's not like, oh, let's actually figure out a solution. It's just, I don't know what to do. That sounds really bad. And then people start drawing conclusions and going really down. And I found myself doing it. I got to admit, it's very easy once you start hearing these things. But you have to remember there's always another explanation. Even when you think there couldn't be, there almost certainly is. I had a friend, for instance, who suggested something. I was talking about a lot of evidence of things like the Illuminati and, like a lot of the symbols found in media, music videos, whatnot, and stuff that you would think, oh, that's really suspicious. Why is everybody doing that? And he said he thinks that it's just about money. He thinks that they're just sort of they know that it's a belief, that it's a fear. So then they just start doing it just to indulge in it. It's like, oh, well, this will get people talking. And I never even considered that. But the fact that that's even a possibility, even if you want to dispute it, even if you want to say, oh, well, that couldn't be it, it should at least give you pause that that's even a thought. Because it just shows that there are other ways to interpret the same evidence. And this is what you have to keep in mind with these conspiracy theorists, with these conspiracy theories. There is no official source of knowledge. There's no, like, unified, agreed upon source of information where it's like, this is confirmed. We know this to be true. The same way that we know that I'm wearing a black shirt, or I don't know, that I have mirrors behind me. Like, just things that are known, that no one would bother disputing because it's just a known fact. The internet exists. Like, I don't know, stuff like that. It's not known. And part of the issue, too, is that these people are trying to dismantle the idea that anything can be known. They're saying that, there is no official known information because even things that we think are certain, like the Earth is round and gravity exists, even those can be disproven. Like, there's no limit. So then what? Everything can be questioned. I mean, to be fair, everything should be questioned, but within reason, what is the point? What is the reason for questioning these things? And then you spiral and you don't know where you're going with it anymore and you lose yourself. So this is why I wanted to discuss it. I think it's a huge issue. I really think it's extremely dangerous seeing how far people go with this stuff because they become very hateful and very bitter and very toxic. They lose sight of their own lives. They don't even know what they're doing. They don't know what to do with the information themselves besides spread it and scare everyone else. And it doesn't help. Doesn't solve the problem. Now, I think, but let me finish the point that I was making first, because I was saying something. I have, like, I don't know if I have ADHD, but I have a hard time keeping my train of thought going. It's like it starts and then it just goes, and I have to work really hard to keep it going at a medium pace, because it wants to go like full blast down the tracks. Let's see, back it up a little. Let me check comments first. Dave just said Illuminati is real. Not helpful, Dave. Dave never says anything interesting anymore. I mean, he just says shit, but doesn't actually engage in a conversation. Dave is an old subscriber of mine. I don't really like, I don't know him outside of YouTube really. I only briefly started interacting with him on Discord. For the longest time, he refused to even get a way to talk to me privately. He only wanted to talk on YouTube comments. But yeah, when he does, he just says stuff. He'll just say Illuminati is real and not actually comment on what I'm saying about it. Won't tell me if he agrees or disagrees, and if he does, he won't tell me why. He's not very talkative. It's very hard to get him to like have an actual conversation. So that's Dave's story. It's pretty simple. So yeah, anyway, I remember starting something that I wanted to finish before I moved on to what I wanted to say, but I'm just going to say it because I can't remember what I was going to say. And I'll probably remember it when I end the live stream, which will be perfect timing, won't it? And either way, I could scroll back and check and see what I said. But I don't like listening to myself talk, so I probably won't do that. So yeah, my thoughts on conspiracy theories are that if you are going to think about conspiracy theories, I think you should be practical in the sense of what do we actually know to be logically true? What we know is that people like money, people like sex, and a lot of people are pedophiles. That is just known. So when you actually take a look at the kind of corruption that you see in Hollywood, in the government, just rich billionaires, elite people, I mean, with capitalism, money and power become one and the same. That's a system that is set up to value production rather than use. So it's sort of like it creates this mentality that people are supposed to work because work. Not because they actually understand the value of the work they're doing, how it contributes to the community, but just because you're a human, you should be working. Which, who does that benefit? People up at the top. You're making their money. That's why they're rich, is because you're helping sell their bullshit. And that doesn't help anybody. That's ridiculous. It just locked me out of my Dave account. Oh, that's very weird. Well, at least you're still here. I can still see your comments. The last thing I saw was Illuminati is real. But anyway. Oh, I almost just burped. So, oh great, I lost my train of thought again. Happens just like that. Yeah, not all of these. Where is Royce? I don't know where Royce is. He does usually tune in. Maybe he just forgot. I don't know. I haven't been talking to him as much. He's been busy lately. I go through periods of just not talking to people, because I just have a lot of other stuff going on and stuff on my mind, and I'm always talking to people, but there's periods where I want to talk like really intimately. I want to connect with people. I want to like have actual conversations where we're like talking on the phone for a while, or just like engaging in my group chat of my friends that I have. And I just haven't been that active or present in that group chat lately. I haven't had like an actual conversation with anybody. I just haven't had an interest in it in the past couple of weeks. I don't know why. It's just the way that I am. I don't need it. I don't require communication with other people. And I know some people don't get that. Some people are, very needy and have to be talking to people all the time. I'm the opposite. I like talking to people, but even when I like it, I never need it. So I don't understand people who are constantly like, I gotta be on the phone with someone, I gotta be talking to someone. I know people like that. I know many people like that. Aaron is one of them, but he at least has a valid excuse. He has like nothing to do. But he hasn't been talking to me much lately. He confirmed he's live yesterday, but I'm not going to complain. I mean, if he doesn't want to talk to me, I don't want to talk to him. Like, I don't need it. He doesn't have anything to bring to the table, It's not like going to be an interesting, engaging, fun conversation for me. It's just, I would just be entertaining him. And I always have something else that I'd rather be doing. So it's just like, it's not that interesting to me. But anyway, I don't, that doesn't mean that I don't want to be friends with these people. It just means that I don't want to be talking to them constantly. Aaron loses interest very easily. Well, he has ADHD, and I probably do too. But one thing that I do know, learning about like spirituality, psychic mediumship, intuitive intelligence, empathic abilities, there are a lot of overlap symptoms, and there are a lot of people who have been misdiagnosed with ADHD and other neurodivergent um, uh, conditions, whatever you want to call them, because there are a lot of symptoms that overlap between the two, between neurodivergence and intuitive intelligence. And the psychic medium that I've learned a lot from, Ivy Rivera, she spent her whole childhood getting misdiagnosed. No one knew what was wrong with her. No, nothing was working until she finally started using her intuitive abilities and then started training other people in it. And then the people she was training, their therapists would come to her and say, I had this client for 10 years and all of a sudden they just completely turned around after a couple weeks in your course. What did you do? And she would tell them and they'd be like, wow, it's a shame because I can't tell people that. And she's like, you should be telling people that. What's wrong with you? You know that this works, you have evidence that this works, and you're keeping this information from people. Why? Because you're afraid that it's unethical? Your job is to help people. Like, come on. Um, you can find an ethical way to explain it. You don't have to convince anyone of anything. My other channel is called Philosophical Psychology because I don't believe it's possible to help someone psychologically without incorporating philosophy. What you believe about the nature of existence plays a huge part in every decision you make, and it would be insane to suggest otherwise. You can't just discount philosophy and say, well, we can help people. But let's say you're helping someone who philosophically is completely cynical. What if you're helping someone who's nihilistic, doesn't believe that anything has any meaning? They're gonna be a completely different case from, like, I don't know, a Christian who's obsessed with the afterlife and everything. People's beliefs play a major role in their psychology. You cannot discount it, and you have to have a good, strong grasp of your own beliefs. You can't act like it doesn't matter. You can't act like it doesn't affect it. The kind of work that you're doing requires intimately getting to help someone, and that does require getting to know more about their beliefs. And, there are healthy and unhealthy beliefs. So, let's see, who's commenting? We live in a matrix. This world is a hell realm. Where's the link to your other channel? It should be in the description. That channel is more geared toward just, helping people. I have a lot of videos giving advice on situations like, some of the recent topics are covering like abuse and stuff like that. And I just started a new weekly series that I'm going to be doing, or bi-weekly. Just like this is bi-weekly. It's back and forth between the two channels, but that one is where we're just discussing different topics, and it can be absolutely anything. But it's different from this because this is more about being educational and making arguments with logic, and that's more just about hanging out and talking. So, yeah. So what was I saying? I was talking about psychology, and I was talking about why it's important. So, yeah, philosophy is something that can't be discounted. You have to consider what someone believes, and I don't like to talk about my spiritual beliefs in most conversations because in general it's not really relevant, but there are some situations where it does become relevant, and almost 100% of the time those conversations are I would actually say 100% of the time those conversations are never political. They're never about collectively helping the world. It's like, oh, well, there's this political issue and this political issue. Those can be discussed without involving belief. However, when discussing psychology, when discussing a person's specific circumstances and trying to help them, you do kind of have to involve beliefs. So that's when I will confidently talk about what I believe based on my own experience. It isn't like I just believe anything blindly. But you learn about something, you figure it out, and then you say, yeah, that makes sense. Let's see how this applies. And it serves you pretty well. So that's all that it is. I don't have a reason to debate something like that in a serious sense because, the only people that I want to debate philosophically are religious people because I don't like religion. So, oftentimes I am on the side of an atheist. And although, honestly, what I find kind of interesting when it comes to psychic mediumship, you can debate both an atheist and a religious person because they both hate it for different reasons. Atheists believe that it just isn't happening at all and that it's just a giant scam. Religious people believe it could be happening, but it's of the devil and it's not what you're supposed to be doing. And I will happily dispute both of those statements. However, one I will do a lot more passionately than the other. I don't have much of an interest in debating an atheist because I agree with them on most things. Right, because what do you remember before birth? Well, I'm not quite sure why you're asking that, so I don't know how to answer that. Anyway, I'm gonna just try and wrap this up and stay focused. I was talking about conspiracy theories originally, and I was talking about what people like. I was talking about how, oh God, excuse me, I keep burping. People like sex, and like if you look at corruption, it's always revolving around how can I make more money? How can I, have more sex, whether it's rape, pedophilia, anything regarding sex, sexual gratification of the person. It's always about power and money. And sex just kind of rolls into that just because of, human nature. So what I find really interesting is anytime I see corruption and power, it's always related to those areas. I see a ton of evidence of pedophilia from people in positions of power. It's there in government and in like it's always like, man, you always hear stories of like weird celebrities. Like I mentioned watching Baby Reindeer earlier, there's a story about sexual assault in that where someone who is a writer trying to help someone along with his career kind of grooms him into a situation where he can take advantage of him. And the reason that it's so messed up is because of how he does it, where he can basically say, "Oh, you have to just do everything I say. You have to trust me. I believe in you, right? I believe in you. You have everything I want." But what you have to ask yourself is, when someone tries to tell you that they believe in you and they see something in you, what are they getting out of it? You don't have to be cynical, but you have to be realistic. People are very manipulative and very selfish and very cynical. And this guy was yammering on about spirituality, and there was one scene where he was like, "Do you see me as a phoenix? It's very important that you see me as something powerful," which is a little bit of an insight to the idea that he gets off on feeling like he has power over someone else, which is what a lot of this revolves around. Um, and he took advantage of this guy because he wanted what he thought he could offer him. He thought that he had the key to the door that he was trying to get into, but all he really did was get something out of him. He just wanted to use him, and he was like, "Oh, this person thinks he can use me, well, I'm going to use him." And that's what you have to be realistic about. People are not honest. Look out for soliciting of any kind. People come to you and say, "Hey," people show up in your DMs that most people know it's a scam, but sometimes I'll get a DM and they'll be like, "Oh, I want to paint you. Just send me your bank information and I'll give you money and I'll paint a picture of you, or let me give you a psychic reading." The people, I like your energy. I went past your profile. You have really good energy. Incidentally, a lot of these DMs were to my other Instagram account that has no posts and no profile picture. I use that to follow people who have private accounts because I don't follow anyone on my main account and I still want to be able to see the posts of people who have private accounts. So it's really just my account that I use to follow people. I don't post on it. I don't use it for anything else. And you know, it's so funny when people DM me and say they want to paint me. It's like, bitch, I'm a blank profile. What are you talking about? So yeah, I had that happen, and I just find it so fascinating how there are probably some really stupid people out there who don't know that this is a scam. And it's interesting because people are very gullible. And what you have to look out for in scams is people want to prey on your desire to believe that you're important, that you matter, that you can do something, but you can sense the predatory nature of it, that they're trying to get something out of it because of the way they approach it. It feels like they sought you out. There's an element of them coming at you. You can feel them needing you. And from a spiritual perspective, I know that people who are empaths, people who are healers naturally, just they're here to kind of bring healing into the world, they attract people who need healing, which means they're attracting people who are severely and deeply unhealed and, and ill, physically, mentally unwell. And these are the people that they're going to draw in like moths to the flame. And you may find yourself surrounded by these people. It doesn't mean that you don't have some sort of talent. If anything, it might mean the opposite. But you do draw these people in. Incidentally, and I want to address one little thing that I've heard people say. People say that because this was again an issue in the show Baby Reindeer. People say that your sexuality is caused by sexual abuse. People try to say this against gay people. Oh, you're gay because you must have been molested. And if you say you weren't, then you must have just blocked it out of your memory. I've heard this. First of all, there are plenty of instances in which someone gets raped and molested and it doesn't change their sexuality. Plenty of straight people who stayed straight after getting molested, even by someone of the same sex or of the opposite sex, and vice versa. Plenty of gay people who stayed gay despite getting molested by someone of the opposite sex. It happens. It absolutely happens. It does not mean that it caused it. I would say that it's coincidental, but if there is a statistic showing that that there's a higher likelihood, I would say it's probably because the people getting attacked are giving off that energy that they're healers, and they're attracting people who need healing, people who are very dark, and they want to siphon that from you, because that's what abuse is. It's about taking something from you. It's a power trip. It's more than sexual. So, in my experience, people who are part of the LGBT community are often people who are healers because they have a greater sense of empathy, and they at least they have the opportunity to have that because they know what it's like to be treated like they shouldn't exist. And people who experience pain and trauma tend to be more empathetic, and that's why I believe, and I do believe you are born that way. I don't believe it's something that can be changed, but that's why I believe they might be attracting it more often, is because they probably are here to do some important work. And in order to walk the walk, you have to talk the talk. So if there is a statistic saying that LGBT people are more likely to have been molested, it's probably because it doesn't mean the molestation made them gay. It means that they came here to live a life of service and be healing to the world. And part of that involves having pain and trauma so that they can empathize with people who've experienced pain and trauma and help them heal. They have to learn how to heal themselves. So that is, in my opinion, the more logical conclusion to draw, because people try so hard to draw the conclusion that being gay is wrong or it's unnatural, and they just fail at every turn. There's just no way to prove it because it's not true. There's always another explanation, no matter what conclusion you draw. And the truth is, regarding morality is just about how much healing you can bring into the world. That's it. That's all it means. How much healing can you cause versus how much harm are you causing? And LGBT people, simply by existing, are not causing any harm. They're not hurting themselves. They're not hurting other people. Just by simply being gay, if someone is gay and they have a boyfriend or a girlfriend, how does that hurt anybody? It doesn't. They're not attacking you. They're not forcing anything on you. They're just existing and minding their own business. So you can't say that that is unnatural or immoral unless you say that God said so. And then I would say to God, explain yourself. Tell me why. And he can't do it. He just says, well, because I said so. Because Adam and Eve, and because, they can't make babies. Well, there's a lot of evidence of completely moral situations in which someone does not make a baby. Morality has never been linked to procreation. That doesn't even make sense. That's just something people say because, it's an instinct to want to, procreate. But there are also situations where maybe that isn't always good. Maybe everyone shouldn't be constantly procreating. Why do you think we have spiders? They literally exist to keep flies from overpopulating. Overpopulation is a thing, So some things exist for the sake of keeping things in check. Has it ever occurred to you that gay people exist so that we don't overpopulate, so that we don't overdo it? But no, people just want more and more and more and more. Because we're like, one brain cell away from just being apes. So we're very, very stupid. And that's not even a mean or cynical thing to say. It's just reality. You have to be realistic and you have to accept that it's okay. We're not smart. So I have talked for a little bit longer than I've wanted to. I'm going to try and wrap this up. This is my first episode back in a while, so I'm going to make an exception. But normally these are going to be 20 to 30 minutes. So let's wrap this up. Let's talk about... Let me actually read some comments. It could be something in your childhood that caused you to not trust. Yeah, I don't know what you said that in I don't remember the context when you said that, but sure. Yeah, so anyway, regarding conspiracy theories, I think the ones that revolve around money and pedophilia tend to be true. If I ever hear about, like, oh, this celebrity turned out to be a pedophile, or this, person is a rapist, it tends to not surprise me, like Bill Cosby, Jeffrey Epstein, shit like that. It's always men, by the way, if you've noticed. The majority of these people are men. And anyone who tries to convince you that there's a bunch of women involved in this too, I guarantee you that's not the case. I guarantee you the women involved in this are around, like, 20 to 10%. I think it's a very low percentage. It is the majority of these people are men. Because men just are so underdeveloped and raised in a way that is encouraging them to not develop. They're raised in a way that they have to be afraid and cynical, and they just they're driven by their instincts, and no one tells them otherwise. They've been way overindulged. It's not an innate thing. Men are not inherently bad, but because of these toxic systems that we've had for way too long, I mean centuries, men have been far overindulged to the point where they need a timeout. They really just need a timeout. They need to be not acknowledged, not engaged with. Just teach them how to be able to take care of themselves without all the neediness, without all the attention, and they become so deprived of attention that they start running around making shit up just to get attention. There are people who will literally go on the internet and say shit that they don't even believe just because they need attention. It's psychological. They don't even know why they're doing it. They get a thrill from it because they're needy. They don't know how to be alone. They don't know how to take care of themselves. They don't know how to take care of each other. Men are awful to each other. So it's very tragic, and it's unfortunate, but it's their problem, and I don't consider myself part of it because I don't consider myself part of any group. I am me, and I just talk about whatever I talk about. I don't feel a need to have a bias or consider myself part of anything. You could say I'm part of the LGBT community, but I mean, even that, like, I can talk about that like I'm not part of it. I can talk about anything like I'm not part of it. I can even talk about humans like I'm not human. So don't like, don't try to say, but you're a man, what are you talking about? Well, do you say stuff like that when I talk about human beings being stupid or anything like that? Like, come on. People try so hard to act like they're catching me on something, and they're really not. It's sad, honestly. People do that a lot. They're like, oh, if a woman said this or if a man said that, it's like, come on, dude, did you even listen to what was said? Like, but that's what I mean. Like, they probably didn't. There's just, so this is a man's issue. We should just leave men to it and stop indulging them. Even if you are a man listening to this, I'm serious. Like, don't make men's loneliness epidemic or any of this stuff going on with men, don't make it an issue. Don't talk about it, just ignore them. All men's issues are for men only. We, the minorities, LGBT people, people of color, women, have had to deal with being treated like we don't matter, we shouldn't exist. We've had to fight just for basic human rights. Not for extra shit, but for just the bare minimum. We've had to struggle and fight for this shit. And we've had to fight with ourselves because we sometimes believe the horrible things that are said about us. And not only do we have to do that, we also have to take care of and coddle and baby men. And that's enough, Put them down. They're going to have to learn to walk on their own. They're grown up. They're not babies. They can stand. Put them down. If their legs collapse under them and they start whining, let them whine and walk away. That's the best way that I can put it. It's ridiculous, and it's sad that they don't see themselves like that, because that's just what they're acting like. They think that they're these big, masculine, strong figures, and they're babies. They're whiny little babies, whose entire identity is so fragile that someone showing vulnerability, someone actually just having emotions and being a human being, is a threat to them, and they feel the need to attack. It's very primitive, very, very immature, very ridiculous and embarrassing, honestly. And it needs somebody needs to just put a stop to this by ignoring it. It's just stop indulging it. It's nonsense. Um, so I think regarding conspiracy theories, this is the last thing I want to say. I know I keep saying that, but I'm very verbose. Um, I think that if you believe in conspiracy theories, make sure that they're rooted in the three things that I mentioned, or even just two: money and sex. If they're not, it's probably not true. I mean, I'd be very skeptical if it isn't. I would be very skeptical of the satanic stuff, very skeptical of the idea that they're all having meetings and stuff. I highly doubt that. I think it may be possible that some of them know each other, that some of the rich, powerful people know each other, like the whole Jeffrey Epstein and the island and shit. I don't know a ton about that, but I get the gist, I think. I think it's possible that that is happening, but I don't think it's as large of a scale as people are making it out to be. I don't think it's as creepy as people are making it out to be. I think it's just basic, um, just shit that we already kind of know about, like sex rings, pedophilia, shit like that, human trafficking, the kind of stuff that you hear about and you just know it exists. That doesn't surprise me, and it shouldn't scare you that much because it's already known. It's not like I'm shaking up your worldview. We know these things happen. Um, and regarding, money, it's basically just capitalism, which is what I mentioned earlier about like tricking people into thinking that their entire purpose is to work, taking away their basic needs like food, shelter, water, and saying we're only going to give you access to these basic survival needs if you work for us. How is that not slavery? I mean, please explain to me how that's different from a slave owner saying, I'll let you sleep under my roof, or I'll probably give you another place to sleep. You don't get to actually sleep in any kind of luxurious place if I'm like a landowner, slave owner, back in back when the U.S. Was new, at least as America, it was new. I'm sure it was always here back when Indians were here, but you know we had slave owners, and I cannot imagine how people could think that it's different to say you don't get to have access to basic human needs unless you do all of my work for me. You don't get to have time to do anything else because you're going to be working for me every day, all day. And that's basically what we have in the US. People literally have to work constantly to afford basic things. And even then, it's not enough. If you work full time, for instance, full time minimum wage, you're not going to be able to afford to live. Things are too expensive. And then what happens if you can't afford to live? You end up homeless. And it's illegal to be homeless. And then you go to jail where you are forced to do free labor. And you have to make a lot of things are made by people in prison. This is like like a news story or something. I heard about this a few months ago. This is a thing. So this is a problem. This I think people could actually buy into because you see evidence of it. It's just pretty known. And I think the issue is just people having too much money and hoarding it. They hoard their wealth. They don't evenly distribute it. They don't do anything revolving from empathy. It's all hoarded. And when you've got a bunch of people hoarding everything from everyone else and only giving it out in small doses, that's abuse. That's exactly what a slave owner would be doing. Here, we'll give you some scraps if you do all of this intense labor for us while we sit around and talk with our rich friends. How is that not what we see? Um, it's wild, and there's so many people who yell at you and say, oh, you should work, everyone should work, why don't people want to work anymore? Why is work the goal? Work was never supposed to be the goal. The goal for working was always supposed to be helping the community, evenly. Like, if you live in a small village, everyone knows why everything needs to be done because everyone can see how what they're doing contributes to the greater good. You go do this at work, it's like, yeah, I'm running a shop and I see the people coming in and getting the value from what I'm selling. Or it's my job to farm and I see people are, whatever it may be. You actually see the value in it. But most of the jobs that we have are literally just lining rich people's pockets, and that's it. It's not benefiting. If anything, it's making the world worse. Pollution, overproduction, people just making the same stupid shit over and over again just because it sells, just completely wasting resources, um, and just polluting the earth with just no gratitude, just more, and not thinking about the people who you're using to get this work done and treating unfairly. I mean, there's like it's sick. It really is just sickening. Um, and people should be talking about that. What are you yammering on about flat Earth for? when you could be talking about this? And this is something you can actually come up with a tangible solution for. This is something you could imagine, like, if we actually address this problem and talk about it enough, get everybody on the same page, we could maybe fight it, come up with a better system, find a way to hold these people accountable. But no, it's not going to work if everyone's just busy. If the working class citizens are busy fighting with each other over stupid bullshit, then nothing's ever going to go anywhere. So conspiracy theories, they've always reminded me of this kind of stuff, which is what I find really interesting. When I learn about this kind of stuff, I think of it as being a conspiracy theory, but the truth is, it's not. It's just reality. And conspiracy theorists don't seem to understand that all the crazy shit that they talk about doesn't really contribute to any kind of solution. It just scares people. I've been getting some comments. I'm going to end this, but let me catch up first. It could be something in... Oh, I didn't see that. Full-timers living in vans. 15 per hour isn't enough now to compete with inflation. Yeah, inflation. Yeah, no, for real. It's wild. Like, I mean, if you are working 40 hours a week, which is full-time, and you're working 40 hours a week, making $15 an hour, you are not going to be making very much. That's like $600 a week, and then they take the taxes out, and then that's brutal. I mean, it's a lot. You lose a lot. So what do you end up with? Not very much. And then, you know, think about all the groceries, rent, mortgage, whatever you might have, bills of all kinds. How much are you going to have left over to just spend on, like, I don't know, having a life? Probably not much. If anything, you might even have, like, debt. You might not even be able to afford the bare minimum. So not only will you not be able to afford just, you know, luxuries, but you won't even be able to afford the stuff that you need, which is how you end up homeless. Because you can't keep up with the rent, you can't keep up with the bills. It's just, you pretty much need a roommate. I mean, we've all just sort of accepted, it's just common knowledge, that if you plan on living alone, you need to be rich. You either need to be, like, having a roommate or just making an incredibly uncommon amount of money. Like, I mean, like, a lot. And that just doesn't happen. So, yeah, it sucks, and it's insane that people don't understand how bad it is, and will just yammer on and on and on about the craziest things. And then when you bring up something like this, they act like you're crazy. They act like you're just some conspiracy theorist, right? When ironically, the people who will call you a conspiracy theorist for saying stuff like this, they are the ones who are yammering about crazy conspiracies. So let's see. What was the last thing? Oh yeah, people who criticize systems like, I don't know, socialism or whatever. They're like, oh, we've tried that in other places and it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Well, what you have to consider is the rich hoarding all of the wealth is something that you can't just overlook and say, oh, well, that's just going to be the way that is. You know, we just have to accept that because they earned that money. It's theirs. They should just be allowed to keep it, you know. So, you know, we'll just let that slide. We can't do anything about that. So let's come up with a system that doesn't involve holding them accountable for hoarding all of their money. It really shouldn't even be theirs because they didn't earn it ethically. And there's a ton of other shit going on behind the scenes that's probably illegal and very corrupt. But it's all allowed by capitalism, or at least it's enabled. Capitalism doesn't make it legal, but it certainly enables it, the illegal activity. But capitalism does allow for things that I think really shouldn't be allowed at all. But that's neither here nor there. I just want to talk about people who you know, think that the rich having too much money is just something that should be ignored, and then they go on and on about how you can't come up with a better system than capitalism, and it's like, oh, well, we need we you know, what else are we going to do if we have like free health insurance or whatever? Then they're going to tax you even more, and it's like, they're going to tax you even more, huh? Because they can't afford to do it? Well, who is they? And why are regular people getting taxed instead of rich people? In an ideal society, and I feel like I've heard that it used to be this way, the people with the most to give would be the ones paying the highest taxes. In fact, I would even say they should be the only ones paying taxes because they live in the world. They live in a nation, a country with a government. Think about it like this. In order to live in that country, certain things need to be provided for everyone. Any system of community of living, there are things that people need in order to keep things running. And the government is supposed to fund those things and keep things moving. Basic needs like, you know, stuff that you wouldn't be able to survive without. That's what the government is supposed to provide. And the issue is that costs money. So who funds it? I would say probably the people who can afford to fund it should be funding it. If they're going to take the money from the citizens, take it from the richest citizens, obviously, right? But that just never even occurs to people. That's never something that they actually consider. And I'm not saying that people should be trying to control everything about the way that you live. I'm not saying people should take away your freedom. In fact, I think quite the opposite. People should have actual freedom. But there is no freedom with this current system that we have. Whatever we have going on is not working. That much I can guarantee you. Because I don't see freedom. I see people who have no choice but to work. I see slavery. I see people who have no choice but to be depressed and hopeless and just getting sucked into all sorts of toxic systems where they're convinced to just be spending all of their time, energy, money, and attention on things that are not helping them. Convinced that they're sick. I mean, we have a for-profit medical system that's convincing people that they need medication they don't really need. Oh my God, I could go on and on, but I'm gonna wrap this up because we're approaching an hour now, and this was way longer than I wanted it to be, and I talked about a little more than conspiracy theories, but to be fair, I think everything I said did in some way revolve around conspiracy theories, so I don't think I went too off topic. So thank you for tuning in. This was the first episode back after like almost 2 years. I mean, or if not more than that. Oh yeah, it's been more than 2 years, for sure. So it's been a long time since I did episode 14, and I'm happy to bring this show back. I look forward to seeing you next week over on my other channel if you want to tune in at the same time to just hang out and chat. And, I'll pick a topic that's different from this one because I don't want to just be talking about the same shit every week. And hopefully I can feature some guests. I think that'll be really fun. So, yeah, link to my other channel is in the description. If I change my upload frequency schedule and if I do, like, I don't know, a different day or anything like that, I will always put any changes made to either of my channel in the channel banner. So if you check up at the top in the banner for the channel, that's where my schedule is all the time. And, what was I going to say? I don't know. I'm very grateful to anyone who tuned in. I'm hoping that this series will be fun and engaging in the future, and you can learn from it and spark interesting conversations and discussions. I love listening to debates about, fun topics. So we're going to debate different things. We're going to talk about all the popular controversial issues just to reach out to different audience members who are looking for specific issues and stuff like that. And, because of that, I might want to increase the frequency of these uploads. So I might do that. But either way, I have a playlist on here with every episode I've done before. So if you go over to that playlist, you can see all my previous Fallen World episodes. Keep in mind, these were from over 2 years ago, so I don't remember what I said. And I also don't know how much my views have changed since then. Probably not much. I think sometimes I surprise myself when I go back and look at older videos, and I'm like, wow, I thought for some reason, I didn't think I was smart back then. I thought that I was an idiot and that I only recently started learning the stuff that I learned. But I realized I wasn't. I was always pretty smart. And I think the reason for that is because I only say things that I'm sure of. If I'm uncertain about something, if I think that it's that there's potential that someday I could learn something that would make me change my mind, I won't even like address the topic. I'm very careful about how I word things, and I've always been that way. So that's why nothing changed. I look back on it and I'm like, oh, okay. I still agree with what I said back then. So, I don't know. That's just something that surprises me sometimes when I'm like, oh shit. I I thought this was like some new revelation that I had, but apparently I was saying the same thing 3 years ago, and I'm like, what the fuck? So it's just kind of funny. But anyway, um, it's just a matter of who watches and who I'm reaching. So doing guests that can reach a larger audience, and even if I'm saying the same things that I've been saying, I'm saying it in a different way, and I'm saying it to different people. So it works out. Have a great rest of your night or day, depending on when you watch this. Some episodes are not going to be live. It really just depends on what the circumstances are. So if I find myself unable to do it live, or if I find myself wanting to do something pre-recorded with someone or something, and then I just upload it, it depends. But either way, they will all have the same title and they'll be part of the same playlist. So they won't all be live streams, but they'll all be educational videos kind of in the same format structure. So yeah. Have a good night, and thank you very much for tuning in.